One of my last videos on YouTube got restricted to 18 and above. And what's the problem with that, you might ask? Well, the problem is if you're not signed into your account on YouTube, YouTube doesn't know if you're 18 or above. So they're not going to show you my videos. Now, the problem I have with that is not only it hurts my audiences and I can't get my message out and talk to you guys, but also, come on, it's YouTube. It's a public area. Do we have to restrict everything? I never said anyone should go out there and gamble if they're under 18. We're just talking about playing a strategy game. So give it a break, YouTube. And that brings me to the other thing. That leaves me no room for an intro and a hook to get you guys to watch this video to improve your game. So if you want to improve your game, watch the video. We're going to talk about something really, really interesting. We're going to talk about thin value and the things that people do wrong when it comes to thin value that leaves a ton of potatoes on the table. I can't say certain words. And if you're not interested in that, go watch something else. All right. Thin value. What is thin value? Thin value means when you're targeting a range that has thin value, meaning the based on the profile that you have created of your opponent in your mind, based on the game that's going on, based on the betting so far, wherever you are in the hand, on the turn or river, based on everything that has happened, you construct a range for this opponent. And that range has very nutted hands, very strong hands, very mediocre strength hands, and some very thin value hands. Low percentage of their entire range consists of those value hands. You're going for that thin portion of their value range. Okay, so what are you supposed to do with that? Well, in poker, we don't always have the nuts. In fact, we rarely have the nuts. So if we're waiting for the nuts to put the money in, I should have said potato. If we're waiting for the nuts to put the potato in, then we rarely are going to get that chance. So how are we going to make some potatoes if we don't get to put potatoes in the oven very often? Well, we target thin value. What is thin value? How do we do it? How do we target that thin value? And does that always mean a small bet? Well, oftentimes, yes. And those small bets add up. Imagine again, because you don't always have very strong nutted hands, you bet thinly and you win those thin value bets. For example, if you have second pair, you target third or fourth pairs and you get called down by those hands because you size your bets so attractively for those value ranges that they're going to call down. Imagine you did that very often and you get called. You're going to make a lot of potatoes in the long run. And at these levels, 1-2, 1-3, 2-5, even higher, oftentimes you're not going to face opponents that are going to recognize that you're going for that thin value and raise you off. And in fact, it's difficult to do that against thin value bets, depending on how the action went, because a lot of times it appears to also be nutted. It's very polarizing. So when we go for thin value bets, we get to extract as much value as we can. And every little bit adds up in a session, in a week, in a month, in every hour. They add up to be a tremendous amount of money. If we don't go for those thin value bets, we're leaving a lot of potatoes on the table. So what does that really mean? Do we always have to bet small? Not necessarily. I want you to imagine a board. We're on the river. And there is ace, ace, queen, jack, 5, and there is a flush on the board, and obviously there's a straight on the board, and the board is paired, right? But we're facing an opponent that we know with any pair he's going to call. He's going to call with pocket deuces all the way up to pocket kings. So in this case, he's never folding. His value range is very thin, right? We're targeting, let's say, pocket deuces, pocket threes. And because we know he's going to call very often and he's going to call any amount, now for those thin value bets, we can go absolutely huge. Because the question is not thin value for a small amount. The real issue is what portion of his range are we targeting? And that's thin and it has some value, but with what frequency is he going to call what amount of potatoes? If our opponent is going to call with high frequency a large potato, Well, then we need to put a large potato in the oven, and we're going to bake a large potato with a very thin value bet. Now, I understand this can be very confusing and it's very context dependent. A lot of people are going to have questions. A lot of you are going to have opinions about this. And this is where context really matters. So if you want to clarify this issue for yourself, if you want to learn how to attack thin value and maximize your leverage and increase the amount of potatoes that you're going to make, thanks YouTube, well, contact me. I will be happy to explain it in detail and use examples from the hands that you bring to me to show you where you're leaving a lot of value, avoiding these thin value spots. That's why I do these free one-on-one coaching sessions to get to know you and show you how you can improve your game dramatically with one example going after thin value bets. To get in touch with me and schedule your own appointments while spots are remaining, click on the link below or go to vintonpoker.com/apply, or you can just scan this QR code right here. And if you want to increase your win rate and continue learning and becoming a crusher, watch this next video.